the Lord's Prayer and Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
all right. Item C on the agenda is the presentation of Frank Foss Award to the Napoleon Fire Department by Mercy Life Flight.
Hi,
Welcome.
thank you. We're very humbled to be here. The Dr. Frank Foss Award, little background, he was the father of our flight program over 40 years ago. He had a son that was injured and found that they couldn't get him to a trauma center fast enough, so that's how he got the idea of let's start putting together a flight service, and we're still here since 1979. What's special about the Frank Foss Award is we've done over 3,000 flights, and we're only giving this to 3 departments. So it means a lot to us. The recipients should be extremely proud. They are nominated by our crew members, and they will be presented with their awards from our crew members. And Kelly Norris is the paramedic that nominated them, and he will explain the run that they were on. And this is Kim Norris, and she'll be presenting also.
So the run that we had with Napoleon Fire, Kim and I were working at Life Flight 2, which is our Wasion base. We got an injured person that we were rendezvousing with Napoleon Fire at the Henry County helipad. We showed up, and it's always kind of an ominous sign for us. We show up, and we can see people are still in the ambulance. They haven't gone in the building yet. We're like, okay, they're still waiting on us. And we get there, and we kind of look up inside, and it's traumatic injuries. And there's an ER doc that's outside the building and says, hey, whatever you guys want, let me know. And we're like, we have to go inside. We can't take this the way it is. And so we go inside, and we start working with that resident, or that attending, and start stabilizing patients, start doing advanced airway stuff. Got that patient mostly stabilized. Napoleon Fire came in with us. Toby and Nick both were super helpful. Were in that ER room with us. I want to say maybe 8 or 9 people, made up of a couple nurses, which we nominated Henry County Hospital. We also nominated Napoleon, Nick and Toby and myself and Kim and the doc. Worked on that patient and got to the point where we were ready to fly and go. And then realized maybe we can't fly. Had some other things going on with the patient. We're like, I don't think he's going to fit in the aircraft right. I don't think this is going to work right. I simply turned around and looked at them and said, hey, my mobile is miles and miles away, hours away. You guys got a squad? Can you take me to St. V's? I need to go via ground. And no hesitation, no nothing, just, yep, give me a minute, I'll figure something out. And within, I want to say maybe 10 minutes, I had 2 or 3 more Napoleon firefighters walking in blue jeans, where I knew they just came from home and they're ready to go. They're like, yep, we can take you to St. V's, not a big deal. And to see that kind of teamwork at 2 in the morning is impressive. And so for that reason, we nominated Napoleon and Henry County Hospital. So, Chief O'Brien? We would normally do this at our conference.
Stood up here. Stood up here in
Yep,
front.
go ahead. Go ahead. We would normally do this presentation at our conference at Maumee Bay, but due to COVID, we made some changes, and so we decided this was probably the best place to do it. So, Chief O'Brien? There you go. Thanks.
So, I I always say that I'm just the guy that gets all the good credit for everybody else's hard work, and this is a prime example of that. I wasn't there that night. It was Toby and Nick and the few other members that actually showed up for this call and really, performed to what they work for very hard every day. The training that they put in all the time. So I am very grateful that this is the second time that our department, since I've been chief, has received that award, and just very, very proud of my staff. So thanks again.
With that, we've got the two crew members here, Toby and Nick. The department gets a plaque, and then each member also gets certificates. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
We want.
Do you want to say anything?
You kind of got a few words. I just, to this day, it was probably the worst call I've ever been on, and I'm glad to hear that he's, from what I've heard, doing well, and just try to take every day learning from that night. And it was just, we all kind of came together and we made it happen, and it was a positive result, so.
And I'd like to, first of all, I'd like to thank the Life Flight crew that helped us out that night. I'd like to thank the Henry County Hospital. I'd like to thank Chief O'Brien for putting together an amazing training program that allows us to continuously be working on our skills and to be able to respond to these incidents at 2 o'clock in the morning so smoothly. And I'm just very, very proud to receive this award and very humbled. So thank you.
Did we get a picture?
Yeah, you want to do a picture, Brian?
I got it, yeah.
You got him good?
Yep. Did you get us, Trevor?
All together,
Yeah,
Yeah, let's do it all together. Take your envelope away from your front there.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
What you got? Man, you can come in here.
Do one more. 1, 2, 3.
You can come on in if you.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Brian, you're good?
I think, yeah.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now back to work.
It's gonna be hard to follow, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, item D is approval of minutes from September 20th, 2021, regular council meeting minutes. In the absence of any objections or corrections, the minutes shall stand approved. Okay, hearing none, they stand approved. Okay, item E, citizen communication. If there's someone that would like to address council, anything other than what is on the agenda, please come forward, or you can put a note in the chat box and we will check that periodically. Item F, reports from council committees. F1, Finance and Budget Committee met on September 27th, 2021, and approved the third quarter budget adjustments. F2, Safety and Human Resource Committee did not meet on September 27th, 2021 due to lack of agenda items. And F2, Technology and Communications Committee did not meet earlier tonight due to a lack of agenda items. Moving into item H, introductions of new ordinances and resolutions. H1, ordinance number 039-21, an ordinance amending chapter 913 of the City of Napoleon Codified Ordinances, construction and repair of sidewalks, driveways, and abutting improvements, specifically by amending section 913.02 regarding contribution of cost by city, repealing a certain section of ordinance number 111-02, and declaring an emergency. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Joel?
Thank you, Council President. Per the Municipal Property Committee's recommendation, the changes of this ordinance are as shown on the screen. Basically, what it does is it doubles the price per linear foot of curb or gutter that can get reimbursed to residents that want to replace the curb in front of their residence, or businesses that want to replace curb in front of their business, from $20 per linear foot to $40 per linear foot. Also, in that same vein here, the price per square foot of sidewalk in front of a business or residence is doubled from $1.50 to $3 per square foot. This is an ordinance that hasn't changed, probably, at least the pricing piece of it probably hasn't changed since before Chad's been here, so probably looking at the 90s of when it was created. 98 when it was created. So this just kind of puts this pricing back in line with, more like today's standards, so.
So if I, as a resident here, if I had a sidewalk that was kind of crumbling in front of my house and I wanted to take advantage of this, you have any idea if I hired a contractor, how much per square foot that would cost? So I know, hey, how much is this $3 gonna help me?
Yeah, the going rate per square foot. What is it now?
Right now, we're seeing anywhere from $8 to $10 per square foot.
Okay.
That's gone up significantly in the last 2 or 3 years.
Okay, thanks, Chad. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
It's not common that we get this, but it happens it's occasional that we get people using it now.
Is this too low?
2 times a year?
It's more than 2. Generally, that line item in the budget is $25,000, and on a normal year, we might pay out anywhere from 3 to 5. We've only hit $10,000 once since I've been here.
Is this too low, Joe? The reason I'm saying concrete's at about $135 a yard.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've had that ever.
It's not a huge dollar figure, and typically this is out of the 400 account, so it's out of capital. We're talking $25,000 that we budget, maybe $6,000 gets used on average per year. It's a service. It's a service that we're willing to allocate. Council is willing to allocate funds to somebody's residence for them to make an investment to improve their properties. So is it too low? I guess it depends on if you're willing to, reimburse somebody more for their expenses. It depends on how you look at it. My opinion, $3 per square foot it's gonna put a dent in the, it'll put a dent in the amount. I mean, you're talking if it's $8 to $10 a square foot, 20 to 30% of your cost is getting reimbursed, so.
Chad, when you say those prices have gone up significantly, do you see those coming down after next year or two?
If we would see the price of concrete come down, they could come back. The other issue is the number of contractors that do that type of work on a smaller basis. Many of them have retired. There's only a handful left in the area, so demand dictates price.
Right.
I have no issue going to $3, and if in a couple years it looks like we could do more, we could always look at it again.
Right. Okay. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, Rox, please call the roll.
Molly,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Okay, item H2, resolution number 040-21. A resolution authorizing the expenditure of funds in excess of $25,000 for a project known as Van Heining Pump Station Replacement Project, which is not included in the 2021 master bid, resolution number 062-20, and authorizing competitive bidding in regard thereto and declaring an emergency. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you, Council President. This was in the 2020 ordinance, master bid ordinance, and was taken out in the 2021 master bid ordinance erroneously. So that's because when we bid this out originally, it was put in the master bid ordinance. We didn't actually get any bids back, so we held off another year to kind of wait for the timing of things to catch up and hopefully get more bidders. But there was a real shortage of materials, labor. Work was, it was hard to find people to do the work, so we couldn't get a bidder. I will say that I would like to request suspension on this, and here's the reason why. We're positioned seasonally to bid this out sooner, and to bid this out sooner, I think, rather than later, with the timing of getting materials and supplies in and getting on people's schedules. I think this is the perfect season to be bidding work like this out. So, Chad, is there, that's just my thoughts on it. I just wanted to put that out there because scheduling to get materials and supplies in for jobs is becoming problematic for some people.
Yeah, and the other component of that, not knowing this was removed from the master bid ordinance, we were planning to bring this 2 weeks ago, and that's when we discovered we needed legislation, so we wanted to go through the process of requesting the legislation be done and bring it tonight. If we can pass it tonight, we will still make the schedule. The funding for this is through DEPA, the 1.625 million. Their last meeting of the year is the week after Thanksgiving. To get on that schedule, we would need to put it out for bid soon. I'm afraid if we wait 2 weeks, we'll miss their schedule, which will put us into next year. And if we're on next year's, we have to reapply, which we can do. But that's a very detailed process, and we'd have to have more legislation, have to do some more certifications. I would rather not do that. I personally would prefer to get it into DEPA's last meeting of the year this year. But the project is funded through DEPA, and I believe the interest rate on this, because it's a loan, the interest rate on Williams, I believe, was 0.67%, and we got 0.37 on the wastewater plant, so we'll probably be between those two interest rates. And I don't know what those interest rates will do after the first of the year.
Thank you, Chad. Appreciate that.
Motion for suspension.
Second.
Hey, Rox, please call the roll.
Molly,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments regarding the resolution? Okay, hearing none, Rox, please call the roll.
Molly,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes,
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
that is passed on first read under suspension.
Thank you, Council.
Item H3 is ordinance number 041-21, an ordinance amending certain City of Napoleon traffic schedules, specifically Schedule 3 stop and yield intersections as listed in the attached Exhibit A and repealing ordinance number 096-07, 112-07, and 034-20, and declaring an emergency. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right.
There we go.
Joel?
Sorry, it's a long ordinance. Thank you, Council President. I was scrolling down to the change here. And in this section, this is the all-way stops section in the traffic code, so it adds Westmoreland Avenue at Bales. As discussed in a committee meeting and at the last council meeting, it was recommended to move forward sooner with the all-way stop at Westmoreland and Bales. This would add 2 flashing stop signs at Bales where Westmoreland tees into it. This was added into the Safe Routes to School grant, but after looking at the traffic that exists today with the schools particularly, but not just the schools, but that's the main kind of driver here. There's a lot of traffic backed up along Westmoreland right now as a result of the traffic on Bales Road not yielding or stopping at all. So this would put something in place right now to help alleviate some of that traffic backing up in Westmoreland. It's $2,500 per sign, and we're working half of the intersection, or a third of the intersection, I guess, is in the county, not in the city limits. So we're working with the county engineer's office too on this. So that's the recommendation. At this time, I don't know if Chad or Chief, do you have anything else to add?
We looked at this and considered this for several years now. However, since the start of school this year, the school approached us and made this specific request. If we want to address the issue quickly, this is the quickest, least expensive option. I know there are some other traffic control options we could look at, but those options would probably be 2 years out at a minimum. Whether it be a traffic signal, you're probably 2 years out. I've heard talk around town of putting in a roundabout. Honestly, if you want to do that, you're probably 5 to 10 years out. By the time you'd be able to acquire the property and get all the design work done and traffic studies. If the concern is just getting the traffic to flow from the school traffic as well as a special event traffic, this would be probably the quickest and least expensive option.
Chief, if you could chime in a little bit on your thoughts on this, on either side, because I've heard some residents, their question being the short amount of time that this is affected, either twice a day, and how many times out of the year, and there's, how about all the other times, and what would you say to that?
Thank you, Council President. One, traffic's backed up there, there's no question about it. Since they moved to that campus, we've seen issues with traffic, traffic patterns around the schools. It's something that we've been in great conversation with the schools for many years. On a daily basis, it's usually a half hour or so, give or take, beginning and ending. But on a weekly basis, it's the sporting events that are constantly going on at the buck, it's the parent-teacher conferences, it's the choir concerts and everything else that the schools are dealing with. I guess my answer to that is we've asked the school to enhance that whole area based off those same concepts. Everything from parking restrictions along that road and putting barriers up, and again, that's usually 1 or 2 seasons that really matters, but that's causing us great concern with traffic flow, and that was something that they did in response to our request to try and help that traffic area out. The parking, some of the pedestrian traffic ways, the sidewalks and stuff, that's all the same problem. It's school related. It's isolated to sometimes just minutes, sometimes it's, half hour, 45 minutes, or events, depending on the scenario. But the cause of our traffic issues on Bales and Westmoreland are the same issues that we have with all the parking and pedestrian movement that the school's trying to, deal with that entire area. So it's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of give and take with what we're trying to do. This is the next step to try and help improve that area. There are a lot of options, but, I agree with Chad. If you're trying to address it in the more immediate time frame, the stop sign is about the only thing I can see that will do that in the short term. If we wanted to try and address it in a more permanent fashion or in a different fashion, that's something that can always be done down the road, but waiting 2-3 years, it's gonna increase the frustration, and the schools aren't gonna get any smaller.
Right, okay. Thank you, I appreciate that explanation. Anyone else have any questions or comments?
We talked about this last Monday night. Tuesday, I had to take my granddaughter to school. Pulled out on Westmoreland. I said, 2.5 minutes. I said, now's the perfect time to see what's gonna happen. 2.5 minutes, I did not move. That's not feasible. That is not feasible for anybody. Citizens or anybody. So I'm glad we're gonna do something, and if we can speed this process up any more than what we can, let's do it.
Yeah, Mr. President, as of you, I've heard comments on both sides of this issue, and things like a stoplight, but those are all down the road. My biggest concern is the safety. I think some of the concerns is if we don't need to put a stop in there because it's just a limited time, but as the chief said, I think it is more than that. Kids going through there. I come home from work at 4:30. It has nothing to do with school letting out at 4:30. And some kid was running across that intersection last weekend when I went through there, or last week when I went through there, that you had to stop real quick. So there is a safety concern. I think a lot of it is coming off of Road P, especially if you're coming from 24, that it takes a while. You don't have to slow down till you hit that intersection. And while I agree that it may be an inconvenience to some, I think we have to look for what's the safest for everybody involved, especially the kids. And not only that, but I think we've been doing a good job working with the school in recent years, and I think the school is asking for some help. I feel we need to give the school some help.
I want to add on to what Jeff was just saying, that 2.5 minutes, it's not just the time, but I think people are going to be less patient and try to pull out a little quicker when they shouldn't. After time, they're going to think, okay, I'm tired of sitting for 2 minutes, and I think I can make it. And we haven't gotten into the bad weather yet, where they getting out in front of those people on bales that may be going, 40, 45 still, and they won't be able to stop. Anyone else?
I think it needs to be addressed, of course, and, but I do like the idea of the ability to readdress it, maybe after it's in place for 6 months or a year, and see if it is actually more of an inconvenience than it is helpful. If there's a different option that could be just during those periods of the day or something like that.
I agree. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, Rox, please call the roll.
Molly,
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Okay, that will be moving on to second read. Item I, second readings of ordinances and resolutions. I-1 is resolution number 036-21, a resolution approving the addition of a $50 surcharge to the City of Napoleon, Ohio employee health insurance premiums for the years 2022, 2023, and 2024. amending resolution number 033-20 and declaring an emergency.
Motion. Second.
Joel?
Thank you, Council President. So this essentially this was a recommendation from the Healthcare Cost Committee, and this would extend the wellness program to 3 years, which is something that we've been doing year to year. And also extends the contract with Borma for 3 years. Something that we took a look at before this was that looking at the options that we have, other pools or going private, what have you, was determined after doing this review by the Healthcare Cost Committee, sticking with Borma is the best option. I know council has heard that before, but it's just good practice to do this every 3 years to, see what else is out there. But Borma's a good group. It's actually growing. More people are getting involved. And at least the last 2 years, we've had good healthcare premium percentage increases. Actually, probably the last 3 or 4 years, they've been single digits. Where we're seeing other pools jumping double digits. So, and I think with the wellness program, coupled with the wellness program, we were the only ones to get the 1% reduction in our premium increase this year. There were 2 others in Borma that got a 0.5% reduction, but us being the only ones getting the reduction means bodes well for us. So everybody else is basically paying for our wellness program, our participation in the wellness program. So it works out well for us, and that's why we're in a pool. It spreads out the costs and limits our risk. And I don't have anything else to say about it, but Laney's here too to add.
Can you just remind us again, this committee that is recommending this, who all sits on that committee? And not names, but positions.
The committee is comprised of members of each bargaining unit. So 2 members of each bargaining unit, 2 members of non-bargaining, and 2 appointed authorities.
Okay. So it's not just the city idea or in the administration building, say, hey, we're going to do this.
Right.
It was everyone that's representing our employees, and
Yep.
I think that's important. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Rox, please call the roll.
Molly,
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Moving on to item I2, resolution authorizing, resolution number 037-21, resolution authorizing a community reinvestment area CRA agreement with Keller Logistics Incorporated within Napoleon CRA number 7 and declaring an emergency. Any motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Joel?
Thank you, Council President. Just requesting second read on this item as an update to everybody. We're working with the CIC to set a closing date, and we're also still working with Jobs Ohio and the Regional Growth Partnership to see what the status is of the OSIP funding. That's the last component to this. So we're trying to figure out if when we can schedule a closing date. But that's not going to come until we get a word back from Jobs Ohio, so we're still waiting on that piece. So, but requesting second read. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Okay, Rox, please call the roll.
Molly,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
All right, item I3 is resolution number 038-21, a resolution authorizing the expenditure of funds over $25,000 for the implementation of an upgrade of the water basin controls, which was not included in the 2021 master bid resolution for the city of Napoleon, Ohio, water and wastewater treatment plants, and to sole source said implementation to Kester Corp. And declaring an emergency. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Joel?
Thank you. Nothing new to report. Requesting second read.
Okay. Anyone have any questions, comments? Hearing none, Rox, please call the roll.
Molly,
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
All right, we'll be moving on to third read. Item J, we do not have any third reads unless someone wanted to reconsider a resolution from last meeting.
Yeah, Mr. President, I would like to make a recommendation that we reconsider resolution number 032-21, which is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute any and all documents necessary to acquire 12.91 acres of land located within the city of Napoleon, Ohio, and declaring it an emergency.
That's your motion, you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Molly. You can get that, we have a motion in a second. Okay,
This is to pass it, this is to bring it back to us.
that's correct.
Okay.
So I don't know if we, Bill, you want to?
So at this point, thank you, Council President. Pursuant to Rule 5.6, we've had a motion and it's been, we voted on it, right? Did we just do that? No.
First and second.
First and second so
Okay,
far.
so it's not been voted on. If
Correct.
it is approved by a simple majority, then it'll be brought back as if it were a third read.
Okay.
So-
Okay. All right. Anyone have any questions or comments on this before we vote on it? Okay, Rox, please call the roll.
Molly,
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
You need me to read it all, or are we ready to?
I believe the title's been read, but if
All
you'd
right.
like to read it again.
I do not.
You can, okay.
All right. Who can I have a motion?
So at this point, I mean, you voted to reconsider 7-0. It is back to you as if it were a third read.
Okay.
I don't know if you would like to discuss it any further or how you want to proceed at this point. Now you have a third read in front of you.
Okay. Well, with the third read, I think I'll read it again so we can make motion
Sure.
second, and then we can continue as if we didn't just add it on
Okay.
here. So item J1 is resolution number 032-21, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute any and all documents necessary to acquire 12.91 acres of land located within the city of Napoleon, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. Could I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Okay. Joel, I don't know if, actually, I've gotten a little bit additional information myself between now and the last meeting that I didn't have before, that is helping me with my decision of last time voting no, because there's a lot of unknowns with this property, with the wetlands and how much it's going to cost, what the whole process is going to be, and then would we be able to recoup that money back. And I've, after quite a bit of research, I've gotten some more information that leads me to believe that the process that Joel has looked into, and I'm sure Billy and Chad and everyone else, there's a lot of detail there, and it sounds like it's a lot better of a smoother process than what I was thinking before. Joel, do you have anything to add from 2 weeks ago?
Nothing new to add, other than, doesn't feel like a smooth process, going through wetland delineations and, doing the wetland takes and things like that. So you're still dealing with other agencies that are, it's a little arduous just because it's people working from home and, the timing of things, but the application process and the procedures and the steps you follow are really not that difficult. So we should be able to get an application in, have it looked at, and just kind of flow through the process. Hopefully we can be the squeaky wheel and get this done sooner rather than later, and then work with whatever entity or if we want to do something with the property, you know, have that option in front of us, so.
So
some
we
time
have
to
a
think about it.
purchase agreement right now, which expires at the end of December 31st.
We
of
have an
this-
accepted offer.
Accepted
Yes,
offer.
It expires December 31st, correct.
Right, so, in my opinion, there's a couple different ways we can look at it. We can, obviously, move forward with the vote right now as is. Someone could make a recommendation to table it, and until we get more of the information that we're waiting on. Since we do have a little bit more time, if we tabled it now and brought it back in 2 weeks, maybe we have some of those missing exact numbers.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident this is gonna be, you know, a little closer to where it's at. You know, maybe the property cleanup, hopefully that's a little less. Mitigation piece might actually, could be a little bit more, but that's part of the risk. It just depends on what's out there. I guess my take on it is, getting the foot in the door sooner on wetland mitigation is important. The reason is, there's only so much property out there that can be used to mitigate these wetlands. There's a bank, and that bank is finite, unless people are building more wetlands to use as bank property. To describe the process, basically, it's like an agency like the Nature Conservancy will build wetlands, or they'll set aside property. And they will, you know, they'll purchase it, and then when people mitigate wetlands, they pay them what it costs them to administer that, if that makes sense. So, it's not like, that pool can run out, I guess. There is a little bit of a timing issue, but, I mean, other than that, you know, the wetland study in the phase one, the property purchase, closing costs, I think are in line. You know, cleanup, like I said, we haven't gotten quotes on that, but I think that's a little high. The wetland mitigation piece, that's, you know, we gotta get confirmation from going through the process. So that's, I mean, it is a little bit of a wild card, but that's gonna take some time.
Do you know if
So that's
there's-
my only caution, is waiting too long, you know what I mean, waiting till, I'm not sure that that's gonna get us much more information than this even, so.
Lori, do you have some?
Do you have any idea of the potential increase for those permit fees? I mean, is that like,
Oh, I mean, Chad, you would be the one to ask, you've had the most contact with us recently.
I don't know what that exact fee is, but the most EPA can charge you for any fee is under $20,000. And that's, what we paid for the wastewater plant permit was the max, because it's a percentage. Wetlands, we did wetlands in '08. I don't recall the number, but I don't remember it being a 5-digit number. Usually most of their fees are in the $2,000 to $5,000 range. They're not outrageous, but I can't say for sure.
not gonna raise the price per acre to 20,000 or more?
I don't think percentage-wise it's going to be a large piece. I don't think it would be any more than, worst case, you've got 17.5 in there for property cleanup. I'd be surprised if it was half that personally, but
The reason I have 17.5 in there, just to qualify that, you know, it's always better to, you know, be conservative on your estimate, especially when there's some unknowns. But after doing the phase one assessment, there is a small little shed type thing that has like paint cans and some other things in there that would, you know, require some proper disposal. But junk and debris, yeah, Chad's right, it's probably not gonna be that much, but it likely will come down, but that's why that's the way it is for the unknowns, and we did discover a couple of unknowns, but I don't think it's anything, coming from that industry, I don't think it's anything that's gonna keep it at the 17.5. We're just talking, you know, paints and solvents. So if you're where you're at, you know, 1%, you know, the agency permit fees would be 1% of what that total is. You know, let's say 2,500 bucks. And again, it's not a make or break. If you want to table it, table it.
Right.
If I'm just saying, I just want to put caution out there that the land, not the land bank, the bank of land that's available for wetland, mitigation is finite. So the only other way to mitigate wetlands, if there's no land available, is to build your own and monitor your own wetlands. So that's a whole nother undertaking.
Thank you.
And just to qualify,
Google search, it's telling me that the application fee is $200 and the wetlands fee, would be, this says 500 per acre, but it doesn't tell me if that's for the acreage of wetlands or the acreage of the property.
Right.
If it's the acreage of the wetlands, you're $1,000 or $1,500.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
I think we should proceed without tabling it, put it to a vote now. Get on with it.
Any other comments, questions?
I'm on the same page as Councilman Hayes. Let's get this thing done.
Mr. President, basically, it's a question for the city manager. If we don't do this, what's the chance of a business wanting to buy that land and then do it
Right.
realistically?
you're negotiating a new price for the property, you know, and, you know, you're dealing with a business that's, you know, probably could be risk adverse. There's other properties out there. So, it's a long process. So if somebody wants to actually develop it, businesses don't like to take a year to mitigate wetlands. So, and then they don't want to clean up the property. Now, we have a clean environmental site assessment. We have a phase 1 and a phase 2 that was done. So that bodes well, but that also has a shelf life. So after 6 months is up, they have to go through that process again. You know, so right now we're positioned well to mitigate it, take care of it, and cut out the time constraints that any business would have in wanting to develop there. So that's, I know I didn't really answer the question.
Yeah.
But
In my opinion, we've had the luxury here of having 30 acres of industrial ground for a long time. Now we have Jack Products on some of it. We should have potentially another spec building coming in there, and then we're out of easy to develop ground. And if we say no to this, and somebody else buys it, we don't know what they're gonna put on it. It's industrial ground, so they could put on storage units, which are fine, but those are not, in my mind, we wanna have a good utility user on there. By owning the property, we can kind of control what gets built on the property. If we say no, and it turns into, again, storage use, I'm just using that, that's not a big utility user, it's not a big tax revenue kind of increaser. If we have the property, we can say, no, we don't want storage units, we want an industrial building, we want a water user, electric user, something that can help us long-term than just avoiding, you know, potentially $20,000 an acre, actually less than that. So, in my mind, I think we're here, I think the numbers are good. I think we just go forward, and when we see what happens on the other end. It's gonna take a little time. The sooner we get started, let's just get started with it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none. Rox, please call the roll.
Molly,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
All right, that has been passed on third read. Okay, moving on to item K, good of the city, K1, discussion or action, purchase of pickup truck off-state contract for engineering department.
Sorry.
Chad, that's you, man. 5 years later.
Included in the 2021 budget was the approval for the engineering department to purchase a pickup truck. I went to local vendors and they were not able to, one, meet the price, but two, to get a truck. So we went to the state contract. The pricing is outlined in the memo I supplied. We budgeted $40,000.
Joel,
It
can you move the
appears
agenda?
that the purchase of the truck and outfitting the truck with city requirements, whether it
Thank
be the bed liner, the wig wags, which are flashers and the lights, and all that, we would be at approximately $33,000. So I'm just asking for approval from the council to move forward and make that purchase off the state contract.
Where does the current truck go?
I put in a request, currently we don't have a truck.
Okay,
I put in a request with the garage to look at the existing fleet and determine which vehicle makes the most sense to get rid of.
okay.
The engineering department currently has a Dodge Charger that came from PD several years ago with 130,000 miles. And we have two Explorers. We gave you one.
Yeah.
We have two Explorers. They have fewer miles, but might be in worse running condition. But I was waiting for Tony Coolman to let me know which one to get rid of, and then generally those go to gut deals.
Okay.
How would this be used, like, on a daily, I mean, who,
It would be my vehicle on a daily basis, and then what we would like to do is get in a rotation to get some of those other older vehicles out, and we would rotate them down through staff. The only vehicle the engineering department has ever purchased new was the current field inspector's truck, and I believe that was purchased 6 or 7 years ago. We don't have very good vehicles. And we're greatly lacking on vehicles that are appropriate for inclement weather or getting into some of our construction sites.
thanks. Anybody else have any questions or comments? All right, do we need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Rox, please call the roll.
Molly,
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
All right, item K2, discussion or action, third quarter budget adjustments. Anything you want to talk about on that here, Kevin?
Well, the Finance Committee met last week, and there was some adjustments that need to be done. Most of them were pretty self-explanatory, and what we're asking is that resolutions or ordinances be drafted, or legislation be drafted to be accepted at the next meeting. What I would like to do, since this is my first time through, is to try to shorten that period in hopes that the next Finance Committee meeting, that once that's passed, then the legislation could be passed at the next city council meeting. So, because it just, takes too long we're gonna be a month behind those when that gets read the next time. That's just an internal thing.
Okay. We can take a look at that. All right. We have a motion to direct the law director to draft legislation.
So moved. Second.
Okay, Rox, please call the roll.
Molly,
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Item K3, discussion or action, American Rescue Plan monies.
I'll take it.
You'll take the money?
So.
Just trying to be clear.
Yeah. So I know I presented this finance department update a month and a half ago or so, sometime in August. So I put together a quick list of priorities for how to use the fund. That's just how we felt would be, the fund should be used and prioritized internally. Number one, revenue replacement of the general fund. I think that's pretty obvious. That's our bread and butter, so any way we can get a revenue replacement in the general fund would help, long-term in budgeting and putting to our fund balances. So I'm gonna toggle back and forth. And sorry for the green, it doesn't show up very well. Actually, I'll just scroll down to the next page, but Kevin was kind enough to put this together. But what we're showing as revenue losses for the city of Napoleon due to the coronavirus is $57,942.62 as a revenue loss. So right out of the top of the $429,845.97, that's only half of the allocation that we've gotten so far. 57,000 of that would come off of there. The next in the priorities was items to improve police and fire operations. Both chiefs had put together a pretty comprehensive list of items that they had requested for use of these funds that are very much needed for the operations. The first one actually would be, and what we found is this really helped out with the response to the coronavirus, was having that part-timer overnight. I know we're planning on hiring a part-timer overnight next year with what was done with the reciprocity vote. So we're planning on starting that next year, but this would give us a chance to start it this year. We're looking at about a $30,000 allocation for that to start. The next item is the about $215,200 to purchase portable radios and upgrade the dispatch centers. These are, I've seen the state of affairs of the dispatch centers on a few occasions, and Chief, I don't know if you want to elaborate more on that, but that's the, I guess, the next priority down. If you don't mind, I'll go through each one and just kind of list them out and go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. That $215,000, as many of you are aware, we've talked about dispatching the radios a significant amount over the last 4 or 5 years since became chief. There's a lot of different projects that started happening that were kind of underway when I took over, involving the new 800, 700 system. Okay, through that project, we did what we could to reuse some older radios that were in our cars. A lot of times are referred to as poor man consulates in our dispatch center. They're car radios that we repurposed for dispatch councils. That was due to the fact that that project had some unexpected expenses, and that was what we had to do to keep from putting out a lot of money out of the city coffers at that time. What we had found out in the during that project, I found out one of my councillettes was end of life about a year ago, and it's no longer supported. So it's something I actually have to do no matter what. The poor man councillettes and what we commonly refer to them as legacy radios, the older portables, the older mobiles that we kept to keep on this system to save some costs there. We found out this year is they have to go through a security upgrade. Chief O'Brien could explain that a little bit more, but in the end, it was some sort of encryption upgrade due to some issues that happened across the state in the MARC system. Anything that's called legacy radio, any of the older radios, that the poor man consulates that we did, those will no longer work by 2025. They will not accept the So in the end, I have to replace these in the very near future to take care of police operations. These are expenses that I have to take care of one way or the other. This provided us an option to maybe do that without coming out of the general fund directly. Is there questions I can answer on that, or Chief O'Brien could answer? He was on the radio committee, so he's pretty well in tune and did a lot of the research on this.
Just one other thing to kind of piggyback on that, when he says a poor man counselette compared to a counselette, the dispatcher at their screen with a normal counselette is able to select a channel bank of 256 channels. If you have a poor man counselette, it's one radio affixed to one channel in the back that cannot be changed. And so when we're operating on different channels, they dispatch us out on a call, they give us an ops channel of 16.2, we're operating on that channel 16.2. But if we have another fire call, now we're on 16.3. And if you have multiple calls, then if you say you need a water supply channel or you need different operations that's happening on different channels, they're gonna get to a point very quickly they can't monitor those just because of the fact that they can't change that radio in the back. So that one radio, that legacy radio, it's affixed to channel 1610, and that's usually the radio channel that we're on, but if there's any other ones, that's gonna go. We do have a couple counselettes, but you can quickly run out of the amount of what they're monitoring in a very short period of time, so.
And that price reflects some discount pricing that is in place for Motorola, through our Motorola dealer right now, until actually just in the next month or so.
Correct. Now, that legacy radio, also what he talked about, that upgrade, is what they call a dual authentication. So just this last year, it was discovered by the Marks radio system that when the way the Marks system works is when you have one radio, it's $10 per radio per month. Well, the whole radio committee back in Henry County, when we first started this whole thing, looked at going to Marks or going to the Lucas County system. Well, if we went to Marks, we were gonna be paying $10 per radio per month, which was a substantial amount of money compared to all going together, getting on the Lucas system, and then every 2 years you're just doing an upgrade. And so it was in the realm of $90,000 for the county, and most of our departments being volunteers, there was just no way that we were gonna be able to pay that amount of money each and every time. So some other departments, though, took it upon themselves in different counties to only register one radio. And when they registered only one radio, they're paying $10 for that radio, but gave every other radio the same service ID. That got discovered by, to me, that's just strictly fraud,
So they use everybody's
Absolutely.
Netflix password, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yes.
Same concept. So that gets discovered, and now the radio, so Marks comes back with this dual authentication, this link layer system, that they have to be able to have that radio double hit. So then every time, you're gonna have this radio that's gonna be able to do it, so they can verify that every radio is registered. And so with that being said, those older radios don't have the software or the capabilities to be able to do that, so you have to replace it. So we're fortunate enough to have majority of our radios at the fire department. We only have about 5 of those radios on the portable side that wouldn't meet that criteria. Now, they're giving us till 2025, and yes, we're not on Marks, but Lucas County said they're gonna file the same suit. So they're gonna file the same suit because, it's interoperable that we talk about all the time. So they're gonna, keep the same thing. So those legacy radios that are in the back of dispatch, they don't have that dual authentication and would have to be replaced anyways. So that's why we're, asking why we put this proposal together, to find out how and where we could best capitalize with the money by staying within the confines of that American Rescue Plan money.
Great. Great explanation. Obviously, you guys know your stuff with the radios, and that's important, obviously, so thank you.
To me, as a manager, the radio system, though it's far superior than what the old system was, is the gift that keeps on giving. So, then we went from $800 radios to $6,000 radios. So that's, or more, probably more by now even.
Will this upgrade solve some of our connectivity issues inside some buildings?
The repeater system did. Now, the radio itself did not. That is still something that I think the repeater provides a Band-Aid for us.
Okay.
We are able to, we got the repeaters installed. There's a few other things that need to be addressed just on the big trucks. But what we're getting them attached to is when you pull up on scene, you put the vehicle in park, the repeater is gonna pop on. That then changes all the portable radios to just speak to the repeater, which then transmits over that mobile radio, which is in that vehicle.
Okay.
So it is a lot better. We went through the hospital, Captain Stewart's and I walked all the way through the hospital. We left him on 1610, his radio says out of range. Where I'm on the repeater, which is hitting my car outside, and I'm able to talk, just fine. So we've already seen the benefits of there, but the radio itself doesn't do that, it's just the repeater.
Repeater, okay.
Yep.
And for the police department, just to clarify, we're still working on that repeater.
Okay.
We're supposed to have them all installed theoretically before the end of the year, maybe by the end of this month. So that process is still ongoing for us. A little bit different operation, so we still struggle sometimes inside the buildings, because we can't leave our cars on in some of our buildings for 8 hours straight when they're at a mobile office, if you would, somewhere else. However, with that being said, we have those same issues under the old radio system, the VHF radio. So it's not a new problem for us, and for the most part, probably 90% of our issues should be solved on the short term with the mobile repeaters.
But those mobile repeaters are not part of this? This
No.
one? That's pre-done, right?
That's all done, that's been. taken
Ordered,
care of.
just not all installed yet?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm told by our radio guy, Alan, from PNR, that my piece of this dispatch will take care of every legacy piece of the equipment I've got back there.
Done.
And I shouldn't have to touch, equipment-wise, short of, something going bad, I shouldn't have to touch it for many years to come.
The ODNR grant is what paid for our repeaters, if you remember. We got that as a 50% match grant. But, like I said, I just do want to emphasize that it is a Band-Aid with the repeaters. They are working. But ultimately, I do think that the best fit is that, another ASR site that will eventually have to come to, as more buildings come, more things that happen, that, Napoleon, when it was first looked at by Motorola, it was said that three sites should be located in Henry County. And when that system got done, there was only one site that was done. So, and we suffer the most just because we have the most buildings and you're inside a lot. When you're over flat land or you're on your mobile a lot, you don't really have any issues. A lot of times the mobile gives a lot more wattage, so you have a better connectivity. That's why using the repeater, we're only talking directly to the outside to hit that repeater, which is talking to the mobile. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that item?
Nope.
I wanted to point out one thing after some negotiations that Chief O'Brien did, and talking with Napoleon Township. Napoleon Township is looking at paying for the other priority that they had, priority-based dispatching. That's something that was, high priority for us. And just happy to say that, working with our partners, that, they'll be willing to fit the bill for that. And I don't know if you got anything else you want to say.
I just want to kind of explain what priority-based dispatching means. So why it's a huge, huge thing for us, and this is not a small number here. So Napoleon Township to step up and pay the $70,000, it's going to put in mobile computers. It's also going to retrain some dispatchers and provide some software at the dispatch center to provide the priority-based dispatching. And what that means is whether you're sending a paramedic or a basic EMT. And according to our firefighter contract, we only are required to have one paramedic on duty at a time. So there may be a time that there's only one paramedic on duty with 3 EMTs. So if that first call comes out and it's a lift assist, we have to send the paramedic in our current way that we operate right now. Because it is 911, what's your emergency? They go through the system. There's no set questions with, that we have dispatchers that are trained at EMD, but we're not providing them the software other than just the cards that sit next to it. This integrates it into the system where they ask the question, they answer it on the software, and the software then determines whether this is ALS, which is advanced life support, or BLS, which is basic life support. So in the event that you only have one paramedic, then you have a lift assist. Well, these questions, and you come to the conclusion that the dispatcher comes to the conclusion that this individual just needs help being lifted into the chair or whatnot. So then they can just dispatch it out as a BLS, and we can then save the paramedic for the next priority call. With those overlapping calls, we've seen 33% of our calls are overlapping. And so they're on that first call going on and having the lift assist, and then now the next call is that heart or chest pain or the difficulty breathing, which then provides, now EMTs going to that call, which is, I'm just trying to utilize the resource a little bit better of what we're giving. And so that's what the priority-based dispatch does. And the reason why you have to have the tough books that'll go in each one of the ambulances is because let's say they do get over there and they are, it's a basic call dispatch, but then the basic is like, well, this is actually needs a paramedic. They can call back for the paramedic. Paramedic can come, but the basic still has to report on what they did. We found the patient this way, all those different things of when their primary assessment happened, and then that system allows them to just transfer their run. So it's a complete picture of that, that EPCR is the complete picture from the time that anybody from the Napoleon Fire Department showed up until the time that we took them to the hospital. So that's what that provides. By Napoleon Township stepping up and taking the, and paying for this, it came up with trustee Kevin Gherkin had reached out to me, and we started discussing different projects of the way that they wanted to use their American Rescue Plan money too. So very, very fortunate, very unique circumstance, being that they are a contracted agency with us, and certainly something that they definitely didn't have to do. So they've seen the importance of what it's going to do for us, and be able to provide the entire area for making sure that we are utilizing our resources to the best of our ability. Just very, very thankful.
Great.
If I could add just 2 seconds to that. For myself, at our agency, we became certified as medical dispatch right after I became chief, and that's a big step. They have, essentially what that means is they have cards, they ask you questions, so on and so forth. But it doesn't determine whether to send that advanced person or not. But with that comes a responsibility of doing evaluations on our dispatchers and making sure they're following those cards and those questions. And what this software now allows, or will allow when we're finished with the project, is a digital way of doing that. So when the dispatcher has to manually enter those question and answer scenarios, that gives us a percentage of how much they're actually asking of the program. So when it comes to liability reduction, it gives us that supervision right over the top of them. We can then attach that call for service and all the documents to that, the questionnaire on whether they're going to be, what percentage they grade out at, and allows us to provide a better service, I guess, to the community in the end. The last piece of that with the tough books is our software through the police department is Windows-based, and we've had a struggle because currently you're under Apple, it doesn't mesh. And so when it goes to Windows-based, our mobile software for dispatching will actually go into their squads. So not only are they going to know that they're on a squad call, they're also going to be able to see that the dispatch is also dealing with 3 police calls going on at the same time, where those calls are at. If people are busy with the overlapping and having just a dispatcher on, a lot of times one dispatcher, they can hit a button on the screen, or we'll be able to hit a button on the screen that puts them on scene. So it will significantly reduce some of the overlapping conversations that are happening on the radio that we're expecting 1 or 2 employees to take care of, because whether it be control or squad, we'll be able to mark each other out and all see them just in the car. So it is a big thing, and I want to definitely thank Napoleon Township for stepping up.
Thank you, Chiefs. Just a follow-up question with that. So if the Napoleon Township, if they're going to use some of their funds for that, do we know what the process looks like? Chief?
Yeah. So we do. What we did is after I talked to Lisa Wagner, their fiscal officer, we had all the quotes and everything already completed at that time. They will be billed directly themselves, so that then they can record it. So then you'll see back in the future a donation from Napoleon Township for us to accept it. So what they'll be doing is they're going to be, all the billing will be happening. We're just going to be pretty much the shipping area. So they're just they'll ship all this stuff to us, but like when it comes to the invoice for the tough books, when it comes to the invoice for ABCO, which is the computer-aided dispatch, and then our CMI, that upgrade, all that stuff will be directly billed. We've been working with the vendors already on adjusting those billing, addresses and that sort of thing. Lisa was out of the office, so we hadn't been able to talk to her last week, but we plan on following up with her this week. So all those will just go to there, and then once this is all taken, the project's done, then it will be just accepted by us as a donation from Napoleon Township That'll keep the clean auditing line, so when they have to report after the 2024 deadline, then they'll be able to show their invoices directly for, they pay for the tough books, they pay for the, dispatch, that sort of thing. And it goes right directly with the response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay.
Yep.
And part of the reason asking, because I know we've seen so many different changes with COVID dollars or different things. What I would hate to see is, hey, you order all of that stuff and you have it in place to invoice them. They're all 100% in agreement, and then the government steps in and says, well, wait a minute, you're not buying it for your township or and they could say you can't use that money for that. And now we bought $70,000 worth of equipment that need to be paid for.
And the reason why that this works is because we cover all of Napoleon Township, and so we do directly affect them in their response. So this is kind of one big deal as far as they're paying for a portion of what that upgrade looks like on the dispatch side of things. But because we cover all of Napoleon Township, that's why it works. But it would not work for them to just give us $70,500.
Okay.
They could not take the American Rescue Plan money and then just donate the money itself.
Right.
That's why we have the, not trying to skirt any, but that's just the cleanest way of doing it, that they're purchasing it, they're just donating it to the city of Napoleon will now become the owners, because we'll maintain that equipment, that sort of thing on the future end of it. So we'll have to take ownership of it, but they're purchasing it for direct response on their residents within their township that will be taken care of.
Okay,
Yep.
great, thank you.
Yep.
Are you good on that item? So just to recap real quick on what was just talked about. The total amount then that puts of the spending, what's remaining of that first 429,000 is $126,703.35. So going back to the list of priorities, so we talked about revenue and general fund, revenue replacement and general fund, items to improve the police and fire operations, and then items C and D, which really, in my opinion, are interchangeable. But it all has to do with the water fund. When you look at all of the major funds across the board, the water fund is we just redid the water treatment plant. We raised rates. It's the fund that's is the weakest of the bunch. So that said, eligible water projects, priority one being connecting the water line from the Second River Bridge to the water line on State Route 110. Chad, do you have an estimate for that? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's fine. The conservative estimate that we submitted to the EPA is $130,000. Generally, we set those estimates so as not to be low when we get to bid. So the estimate's 130, but we're hopeful that the bids would come in below that. Right now, that's being placed in the 2022 budget, but if funds become available, we would discuss when we might be able to move forward with that project.
Yep. And I would suggest that the remainder of this go towards that State Route 110 project. If any of this in the total package comes in lower for whatever reason, we could always reallocate those funds to something else, i.e. Revenue replacement needed in the water fund or something like that. So that would be, that's kind of just, prioritizing spending for the first half of the first tranche of funds. That's what's being recommended at this time. So I think that's in the quarterly budget adjustment. Is that correct?
Yes.
That amount?
Yes.
So if there was a, way we could, write it in such a way that it can be appropriated for these specific items and then move forward with them, that would be appreciated too. So I don't know if anybody has questions and comments.
Council President, if I could add too, that 57,000 for the general funds, just to remind, for this year. If you go to that spreadsheet that you had up,
Yep.
we're able to continue to calculate this if we're eligible. So as 2021 wraps up, we could tell you when the next round would be. And if we have revenue loss then, and there's a percentage that's built in for that for growth, then we could capture that also with that. And not only for 2021, but 2022 and 2023.
Thank you.
So, I don't think there's really any action required at this part if everybody's okay with,
If it's gonna be drafted into the quarterly budget adjustment, we should be good.
okay. If that's okay with everyone, then,
It's all good.
okay. I'll, make sure that this is in everybody's packet for the next council meeting too, and sorry, it took a while to put everything together. What we're really working on making sure that we had was that first piece, the revenue replacement for, the general fund. So that was the key to this.
Appreciate all the hard work that is involved from you and everyone else. So thank you. All right, moving on to item K4, discussion or action for a set date for annual budget review. We discussed a couple different options. You know, we might have some of us on council may not be around, like maybe one for the weekends or another time. Mayor and I kicked around the idea of, what was the date?
Thursday the 11th.
Thursday the 11th, with it being a federal holiday.
Yep, for Veterans Day.
Thought that might be a little bit easier day for some people on council to not take a vacation day or personal day or something, and then we can always come back on, finish it up on either Friday morning or
Saturday 13th.
Yeah, Saturday the 13th, which that would kind of be nice anyway, splitting it up from a Thursday and coming back on Saturday, then the 8-9 hour day on Friday, then turning around and, you know, our head's still kind of swimming, and sometimes there's some things that we bring back that next day that we may need to make some adjustments or something. So it'd be nice to be able to set the date now so everyone involved, all the department heads and city manager and finance director.
We can ask for vacation if we need it, or whatever we gotta do
Right.
that way too.
Anybody opposed to that date?
So. Who's that gonna affect, the 11th and 13th?
Just the 13th.
The 13th?
I'll be on a flight, so if there's Wi-Fi available, I'll try to call in.
I got it off on the 11th.
You got off on the 11th, Jeff?
I have no idea.
Okay,
We're so short-staffed now, it's not funny.
okay. Ken, I'm gonna assume you're retired and you don't have any obligations those days,
I don't have any obligations.
because breakfast is on Wednesday, not Thursday. So. Dan?
It may or may not. The court is closed. The
Okay.
school is open.
Okay,
So it depends what they want me to do.
okay. Lori,
I think I should be fine.
that should be fine. That work for you?
Yes, sir.
That work for you, Kevin?
The 11th and the 13th,
Yeah,
I should be fine.
okay.
It's my birthday on the 13th though, so it's gotta be quick.
Oh!
We use a short candle.
You better talk to those two on the ends in the back there, because they're usually on that
They're
Saturday
traditionally on
morning.
Saturday morning, yeah.
Yeah.
You need to bring cake.
Bring cake, there you go.
Rox,
Billy, how about you?
those days work for you?
Is that fine? Yeah, that's fine.
Doesn't
We're
matter?
asking everybody. Joel, I guess, you okay with that?
Since she's here, she asked Laney too.
Yeah.
That work? Chad? Brian, you got time in your calendar? Something like that? Yeah, let's do it. Is that all right?
Yep, so we can add that.
Do it, do it.
That was easy one.
thank you for the flexibility, everybody. That's very, very nice. So,
Thank you guys for changing it from the original dates.
That works out really well, because then the first read could still be on November 15th, second read the 6th, and third read the 20th. So you still get the 3 reads without this extra council meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's,
Could it be good then on the 13th?
All right, moving on to item K5, discussion and action, accept a donation to the police department for $100 from Charles and Truce Leader, and $25 anonymous donation. Have anything to add on this here?
Not much, Council President, just that we've received these over the last couple of weeks from residents that were happy with the service that they received at some point in time, so they dropped these off for us to use with no real stipulations on them.
Great, all right, thank you. Someone like to make a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second?
Hey, Rox, please call the roll.
Molly,
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Okay, it's been accepted. Item K6, discussion and action on review council rules. Since a few people were not here for the last meeting when I had added this onto the agenda, or on the good of the city, for a couple different reasons. One, I think it's good if we all take a look at our own rules. That we, I'm sure, should have all read them over when we first got on council, but maybe not looking them over as often as we should, and mainly speaking for myself. I did notice one thing that I brought up the last meeting, that the right of the floor. And I caught myself being in committee meetings where I was not the chair of those meetings, but I'm the chair or doing the presiding over this meeting over and over, and I kind of felt like I was taking control of the meeting and I wasn't given the person who was the chair of that, those committees, you know, the option to even, hey, is it okay if I speak instead of you and Lori, you were one, and Molly, the other? So I apologize again for doing that. So I just thought it might be a good time for all of us to take a look at all of this, and if there's something in here that maybe it's been there for 40 years and doesn't make sense anymore, or maybe some adjustments with, you know, a lot of things have been adjusted because of COVID. I don't know if there's anything in there. And I know, Billy, we talked about, he had an ad hoc committee for that. I think if we have people that have some concerns and they bring it to council meeting, and then we need to move it to an ad hoc committee, that'd be great. I'd like just to keep this on one more meeting, just to give everybody the opportunity to read through it. And if we have nothing we need to change, that's fine. Does anyone, anything jump out at anybody that maybe we're not doing the way we should, or have any changes?
Council President, if I can speak, it was, I believe, 2017 when we, when the ad hoc committee was formed. I believe you were on that committee along with Jeff Myers and one other, I forget. And a full review of the rules was taken at that time. And some amendments were made in 2017. Not discouraging anything going forward, obviously, just saying that we did spend a decent amount of time going over the rules 4 years ago. But that ad hoc committee was not dissolved, it still exists. 2 of the members are now gone, so we would need 2 people added if something were to be reviewed or changed. But that's where we stand right now.
Okay, so if we leave it on till the next meeting and there's nothing to be discussed, should we just dissolve that, or?
Yeah, if you don't plan on doing anything with it, yeah, that would probably be just to make it cleaner, I guess, yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, No one has any comments or anything?
Oh,
We'll
Council
just-
President, I was just waiting for everybody
Yeah.
else. Just one item, we always talk about executive session and what's the right motion to go into executive session and what are the right, stipulations that you can go into executive session for? We talk about that, quite a bit, and, just that, I've seen, since I've been here, that, maybe even shoring up some of the, making sure that when we go into executive session, that the topics are what are appropriate. And it always helps to ask your law director ahead of time so that he can make sure that it's appropriate too, just for everybody's. I know he and I have talked a few times about, going into what's appropriate and what's not, if either of us have to call, or if I have to call an executive session on something. And then just making sure that whatever goes on in the executive session stays in executive session as appropriate too, one of those constant reminders that we don't have to. It's like your mom telling you that you know your mom loves you, but she tells you she loves you. It's like affirmation, one of those. So it's like that's always a constant reminder of, making sure that that's followed too.
And you and I discussed, you mentioned before the Roberts rules a little bit. I haven't gotten into any of that also, if you want to bring up your thoughts on that, or gonna give us some insight.
Me?
Yeah, you're the one that brought it up to
Yeah,
mention it
Robert's
to me.
Rules of
and-
Order. Oh, man, I'd have to get the book out.
And no, I mean, just off the top of your head, the kind of things,
Well, I actually think it's in the charter that it reads that meetings should follow Robert's Rules of Order, so.
Yeah, if there's
it's-
nothing specific in our rules, then the Robert's rules are sort of a backstop for, that's, actually, I had to go to those to see how this reconsideration would come back. I was a little concerned because it's not spelled out in our rules. But reading Robert's rules, it came back as if that previous vote had never happened, and that's why it came back as a third read. But, so it does state in our rules that Robert's rules is to supplement, I guess, but our rules control if the facts are sufficient. I guess I'm saying this wrong, but if the facts are in front and the rule covers it, then we follow our rules, and if it's not addressed, then we would look to Robert's rules.
is there a quick little handbook for that, or is it
There
more
is.
just?
And it's very easily found online as well.
Okay.
So, yeah. Instead of paying money for it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's free online.
All right, awesome.
Thanks, Billy. That was the third question I didn't answer today.
Do you carry the Robert's rules with you?
No, I've got one in my office, but
I know I've seen one in the room before, I don't know if you carried it for
no, I don't bring
previous
it
law
with me.
director, we'll just keep it in there.
Maybe Roxy's got one. Roxy got one? There.
Yeah.
That's the one I meant, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Roxy. Thank you, not trying to put you on the spot, Billy, I knew it was.
Sure.
It's nice to know that it's here if we need it, so.
Okay, any other comments regarding that? And let's go around the table here. Let's start with Kevin today. Have anything you want to add that wasn't on the agenda?
No, I have nothing to add.
Ross?
Just want to say what an awesome award presentation that was at the beginning of the meeting. Another thanks to Toby and Nick. So that's all I had. Thank you.
All right. Ken?
Yeah, the whole city looks brighter with all the stripes nice and neat on the streets again. Always makes it look a little cleaner. That's it.
Okay. Dan?
Just one thing, I did inform the council president last week after I had a conversation with Jennifer at the CIC that I do not want to continue in my seat on the CIC as a council representative. I think it's time, after 6 years that I've been in that spot, for someone else to represent council. However, Jennifer did talk me into staying on a committee because she wants me on a committee. But I am not the council representative after December 31st. I told her I would agree to be on the workforce committee because she still wants me there, but I will do that, but not to the board seat, because I think I've done it for 6 years. I think someone else needs to take that spot and try a little different perspective. I'm not recommending anybody for it. I've just informed the president, and I wanted to make sure you knew that I was not seeking to stay in that spot. That's all.
Well, thank you, Dan, and thank you for representing council for 6 years on that board. Appreciate it. And I guess I would just put out, if anybody's interested in that position, well, let me know, and we can discuss it, and then when we need to make that appointment, we can figure that out. All right. Mr. Mayor.
Is there any harm in putting up some no littering signs around the truck stop? I know there's some issues out in that area.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
That's, what is, you know, oh, we
Just
kick it
look
around.
into it to see if.
Yeah.
I understand people would sometimes use the no littering signs as targets as they litter. I understand that. But I don't know if it's something we can use or not.
Yeah, it's,
Like people said previously, it's pretty special when first responders get recognized in a good way, and that's a good way. So congratulations, Chief. And you talked about all the training you guys do day in and day out, and I know that it showed on that day. And Chief Mack, you know, you training your people all the time, and, you know, they respond, and just a great team effort, and really appreciate everything everybody guys does. So that's basically all I had tonight. Thank you very much.
Lori?
All right, congratulations, Chief, and thanks to the whole department, but those Nick and Toby, sorry. And Toby, I couldn't grab Nick, but to both of those two. That was really just a touching presentation and a proud moment, so thank you for that. Thank you, Dan, for your representation too, and thank you for continuing to be on the workforce committee, because I think you are a great contact and
thank you.
connection there through the schools. I know you do a lot with that, so. Okay, I don't want to complain, and Chief Mack, maybe you've heard anything. I was sitting in my back room of my house, was probably around 1 o'clock, and clearly heard a rooster crowing somewhere in my neighborhood. I don't know where, and I don't know if you've had any complaints about it. I'm not complaining, but it would have been more helpful maybe at 6 a.m. 1 p.m. No.
But he can train the rooster not to do it at 1, but at 6?
I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on there. Just thank you to Lainey and the others in the city that organized the golf outing for the staff this past week, and for allowing some of us to participate in that. It was a great time and good food, except for one. I think everybody knows which one that one was. But so it's just a good time. Thanks for that. That's all for me.
Jeff?
We've got an issue at Kids Kingdom bathroom. Last
Yeah.
week it was graffitied. It's probably done at night. I think we have locking bathrooms at Oakwood. I think we need to do it at Kids Kingdom. There's no reason for people to be in there after dark.
What time do you unlock them then, Jeff? Because some homeless kids use that to get themselves ready for school. That's why there's no locks on those doors. Okay, just to give you the background on it.
Well, they're not supposed to be in there at dusk.
From sundown to sundown, I understand that, I'm just
Yeah.
coming into this, you know, as we get later into the school year, it gets lighter later. That's why that was done, just to give you an idea. Okay, that was an agreement between before Fogo, Ken Hawley, Superintendent Hawley, and John Beischer, because you got some homeless kids that need a place to freshen up before they go to school. And that's why they took the locks off, just to give you an idea.
And some
Okay.
runners.
And some,
Me too.
some runners, okay, yeah.
But I do see a lot of people
Yeah.
going through.
Everybody lock, we should have a time to unlock them, you know what I mean? If you lock them at 10 and unlock at 4, I don't know. You know,
Well, maybe
is that
not
possible?
maybe locking isn't the solution, but we've got some other things we're looking at too for, you know, just security around the pool. You know, maybe even adding a camera on the back end of the pump house, because we do get a lot of vandalism in that bathroom.
Yes, we
Third
do.
time this year,
Right?
whether it's graffiti, a broken sink, something, there's always something happening. That particular bathroom seems to be a magnet for vandalism though.
Mhm. Well, we.
Would that be helpful if,
Yeah,
you know, we have a little more
We've got an
surveillance
issue
on
there,
it?
let's handle it.
Chief?
Yeah, Councilman, thank you. Lighting is always, and I know there was some feedback a week or so ago about lighting around the pool, but that's a big deal. From a security standpoint, when facilities aren't in use, being able to actually see in areas. Until you drive around at night, you don't realize how many shadows that is. And lighting would be a big deal even for all those individuals, runners and that type of thing. But just I guess more of a clarification for our citizens, when you see lights around city facilities, a big part of that is that security, to be able to see what's going on around those facilities. So it's kind of I guess the only reason I bring that up is because I know we had some feedback a while back about criticism, I guess, around the pool. That's a big deal. That's the last thing we want is any kind of damage. So that is a very dark area back through there with a lot of shadows, a lot of areas to hide, so to speak. Whatever for.
You know, kind of to add to that, I don't know if it's just because since COVID hit or different things, but I noticed there are a lot more people using the basketball area, which is awesome to see. And there's a lot of times, you know, I'm you know, walking and it is a little bit dark and there's still kids out there playing, and it may only be like this time of year, it's getting dark so early. And instead of, I mean, I'm thinking possibly changing in certain areas, the park times where maybe have more lighting at the basketball area, and they go off at a certain time, no matter what time of year, if it's 10 o'clock or something. But instead of deterring those kids from, hey, I could have played basketball, now it's too dark and it's only 7:15. What are they going to go do now? So just kind of piggybacking on what Jeff said, I think we should have more lighting around there, and maybe some cameras, and put the signs up about, hey, keep our parks, you know, clean, and, you know, don't damage it, but we're watching you.
Yeah, like that under surveillance type of, yeah. I
Now,
don't know
would
if
that be?
I don't know if that deters people or not, or maybe it'll curb some of it.
Can we make our own times with our own parks that they're available?
right.
Okay, I know some are, as long as it's not a state-owned or something like within.
Right,
okay.
I think the only one might be, and Tony's not here, but Meyerholtz, because for whatever reason, we acquired that through ODNR, and there's some type of an agreement, but that would be the only
Right.
one I can think of that would, if any of them would have a restriction.
Not to put you on the spot, Chief, but what I was just talking about, do you see an issue with that, expanding that when it's dark out, not, you know, till midnight, but?
That one specifically, no. In fact, you know, living down in that neighborhood, I agree. I go through that area a lot, and almost every time I'm driving by, there's a kid or two or three that are throwing a basketball around or just hanging out in that area. So that is definitely one that gets used well into, you know, 9, 10 o'clock, which is after dusk.
Right.
So,
But that wouldn't pose a problem to you or
No, sir.
your, okay, great.
the biggest thing for us is being able, I guess my view on a lot of stuff is, how do I prevent it? So, you know, lighting, those type of things helps me prevent it, because it allows me to see things. Cameras, you know, as Joel indicated, there's some things that we've discussed through the pool project, as far as enhancements with security there. Those are things that help me prevent it, versus respond to the graffiti and just painting over it and waiting for the next time until it happens. It will continue to happen, but we're trying to deter it so it's not happening every other weekend.
Right.
Our parks people have better things to do, and we certainly have better ways to spend our funds.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I was walking by, it was, I don't know, a month or so ago, and the pool lights came on. It was already getting kind of dark, and the pool lights came on, and there was kids playing the basketball, and I can't repeat the joyful responses they had exactly, but they were happy that they had light, now they can still play. Alright. Anything else, Jeff?
I live on Beckley now. I ask neighbors out there, does 24 make the noise? Does that affect them? Well, they said a few years ago, there was a petition taken out there to have somebody do a barrier. They said nothing was ever done with it. Who do we?
I addressed that with ODOT. We did something with it.
Yeah.
ODOT's response was that the highway was there first, and because the highway was there first, it would be the subdivision's responsibility to put the wall up. Because with that, ODOT put the wall up at, where North Harmony is, because that development was there before 24 got put there. But when I asked them about the Beckley subdivision, they said they won't contribute to it because they were there first and the subdivision came after.
Okay.
So we looked into it, and I don't remember which resident I spoke with, but that might have been 10 years ago.
Sure. Yeah, that's the reason I'm asking. I'm asking if something was ever done. They said, yeah, a petition was taken, but that was it. So, all right, thanks for the answer.
Yeah, we took it to ODOT.
Anything else?
Nope.
All right, Molly.
Wonderful award ceremony, congratulations, that's great. So, that's great, thank you.
Okay, Billy?
Nothing from me. I'm asking that the police chief and the fire chief be included on the executive session.
Okay. And Joel?
Nothing for me, just tell Slick, he looks good today.
I just want to, say the same thing about the award presentation. Obviously, you have to be very proud of your couple guys, and I'm sure anybody else that was on that call would have done the same thing with, the guys that you have. I thought that was just a huge award for the city of Napoleon getting, but then on top of that, having a person that is on life flight and seeing these horrible things, seeing that guy get choked up because of how well Napoleon responded was, I don't know, it was even better than the award itself. Yeah, that was just amazing to me to see somebody that he lives this every day, and for what your guys did, and how he feels about Napoleon, that's awesome. So, that's all I have, except for the golf outing. Blaney, good job putting all that together. It was a lot of fun, except for the one hot chili. Almost had to call the fire department for that one. Yeah. Did you eat it, Chad?
That was my favorite.
Man. Oh. I don't know if I should be impressed or scared.
He gave me peppers to take home. I had some for supper. It's taco days.
Wow. All right. Okay, could I have a motion to go into executive session for pending or imminent litigation?
So moved.
Second,
Hey, Rox, please call the roll.
Molly,
yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
All right. We want to stay in here, or do you want to go in another room and warm up?
Can I just?
Turn the air off, will you?
You want-
All right.
Okay.
Okay, could I have a motion to come out of executive session for pending or imminent litigation?
Motion.
Okay. Rox, please call the roll.
Molly. Molly,
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
All right, no action taken. Item M, approve payment of bills. In the absence of any objections or corrections, the payment of bills shall stand approved. Anything? Okay, they stand approved. We have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Anybody
Second.
stay? Rox, please call the roll.
Molly,
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.